Raja Rammohan Rai, a prominent figure of modern India during 19th century. I think we should remember him today for his landmark contribution in shaping the contours of modern India. We all know that Raja Rammohan Rai is truly remembered as the father of Indian Renaissance. I said, Raja Rammohan Rai is truly remembered as the father of what? Modern India. He is also known as the father of Indian Renaissance. Indian Renaissance. He is also known as a bridge between medieval and modern India. Medieval and modern India. Raja Sahab is also considered a prophet of humanism. A prophet of humanism. So let us see today what this person gave to Indian society. In fact, Raja Rammohan Rai was born in 1774 in a Bengali Brahmin family at Radhanagar. Born at Radhanagar. In Bengal. As it was possible, he got early education in his family, but later on, Raja Sahab studied different languages, both Western and Oriental. So he was a polyglot. He was a polyglot. Means he knew various languages. You can see that he had equal command over English language, Greek language, Latin, Arabic, Persian, Sanskrit, Bengali, etc. At the same time, this man had also a strong command over different type of scriptures like Veda, Upanishad of Hindus, Quran of Islam, and Bible of Christianity. And that is why this person had a wide-ranging thought on almost all subjects, whether it was society, religion, politics, administration, etc. So, let me explain one by one what he did for modern India. In fact, Raja Rammohan Rai is remembered for the multifarious activities which he did for India. For example, number one, education. Number two, social reform. Number three, religious reform. Number 4, liberty of press. Number 5, a harbinger of what is known as moderate politics, which was seen during 1885 to 1905. But first of all, let us see what was the goal of Raja Rammohan Rai, what was his mission, and what was his method. If you go through the life and the works of Raja Rammohan Rai, you can easily notice one thing, that his only goal of life was to create a modern India, which must be progressive in terms of everything. And that is why he sacrificed all his life for the physical, moral, spiritual advancement of India. He was the first modern mind of India who deeply realized the needs of India. In fact, the 18th century Europe had experienced the age of Renaissance, the age of Reformation, the age of Enlightenment. On the other hand, our nation, that is India, Bharat, Hindustan, presented a picture of a stagnant civilization and a static society. And that is why Raja Sahab was fully depressed, having realized such a sad condition of India. And that is why he made up his mind to do something to restore the position of India. In this context, Raja Rammohan Rai first realized the significance of English education for the eradication of all social and religious evil practices, because he knew that only Western education could help India to emancipate herself from the clutches of medieval orthodoxy, medieval superstition. And that is why Raja Rammohan Rai convinced British government led by Lord William Bentinck to bring about English education in India. In fact, he was no more to witness when this education was being introduced by Bentinck government, but it was a great gift of Raja Rammohan Rai when India witnessed the beginning of English education in March 1835. Only Raja Rammohan Rai in his time deeply experienced the value of this education, because it had the spirit of scientific inquiry. It had the element of rationalism, humanism, and without such progressive ideas and elements, India could not have achieved what India achieved later on. Raja Sahab not only convinced the British government, but also himself established some institution for the propagation of English education. For example, in 1817, Raja Sahab established Hindu College with the help of his friend David Hare. Hindu College. This college, in course of time, became the famous Presidency College of Calcutta. And so, Raja Sahab got the stick of region to attack the socio-religious evil practices. We can see one thing that in India, both social problems and religious problems, both were interconnected, interlinked, because every social evil practices was sanctioned by some religious traditions, conventions. That is why without the change of religion, it was not possible to make a surgery of our society. And that is why, first of all, Raja Rammohan Rai studied Indian scriptures like Veda, Upanishada, epics like Mahabharata, Ramayans, and thereby he could believe that in religion there was no such thing to support the existing social unhealthy practices. And so Raja Rammohan Rai attacked idolatry, pilgrimage, priesthood, yajna, rituals, bali, I mean to say slaughtering. All these evil practices were strongly castigated by Raja Rammohan Rai. He emphasized what? On the concept of one God. One God, that is monotheism. Monotheism rather than polytheism. And that is why he established Brahmo Samaj in 1828, which means one God society. In this religious conception, he had one thing in his mind, and that was national unity. Suppose if Indian people worship different god and goddess, how India could be united? And that is why it was not confined to religious reformation. It had also the spirit of national unity. Similarly, Raja Sahab also opposed all social evil practices, unhealthy traditions, both based on caste and gender. For example, caste-based problem were number one, Varna system. Number two, untouchability. Then the idea of high and low. Similarly, he also opposed all type of evils based on gender disparity. Gender disparity like child marriage, like Parda system, like polygamy, like he also promoted the idea of what? Widow remarriage. He opposed sati practice. In short, we can say that Raja Sahab was fully against all those social problems which were hindrance in the way of India's progress. Right? And that is why it is said that Raja Rammohan Rai and his Brahmo Samaj formed the starting point of all kinds of social religious reform movement in India. Here we can see the sati practice. Raja Sahab, a great contribution of Raja Rammohan Rai was the abolition of sati practice. He strongly convinced Bentinck government to bring about some amendments, some law to demolish this cruel practice being imposed by male-dominated society on innocent women of India. And his dream came true in 1829 when Lord William Bentinck introduced a law for the removal of sati practice from India. And since then, the British government brought about various legal mechanism to abolish different problems of India, like widow remarriage was banned, child marriage was also banned, and all this became possible only on account of the great and landmark contribution given by Raja Rammohan Rai. Now, so far as the liberty of press is concerned, liberty of press, Raja Sahab was a strong supporter of liberty of press and civil liberties. And that is why he always convinced the British government to give Indian people the right of free expression. Himself he published various newspapers and magazines. Let me give some example here, like Sambad Kaumudi in Bengali language, Miratul Akhbar in Persian language. So he was a great proponent of liberty of press, right? Similarly, Raja Rammohan Rai, political ideas, was also pragmatic. He never opposed the British government. He always emphasized that the British rule is a boon for India. And here he was realistic. He deeply experienced that India was not in a position to oppose British government because India was not a nation. India at this time was not united. India was nothing more than a geographical expression. And British colonial system was strong enough to suppress any demands of India for self-rule. And that is why Raja Sahab became practical, pragmatic, not to oppose the British government, rather he made effort to take advantage from the British rule. For example, education, reforms, communication, liberty of press. So he always said that the British government should not be opposed. Rather, he requested politely to British government to bring about some reforms in administration. For example, give us liberty of press, right? Separation of executive from judiciary. Similarly, he supported jury system in justice. He also demanded the Indianization of civil services, but he never strongly, openly opposed British government because he was pragmatic thinker. And the same approach, same method was adopted by Indian National Congress in the first stage of its struggle for independence from 1885 to 1905. So he was harbinger of modern politics. Right. Now, one thing we must take care of, Raja Rammohan Rai was not an economic thinker. And that is why he only said that the land revenue given by peasants of India should be determined so that peasants could be protected from exploitation of zamindars and moneylenders. Similarly, he also supported development of modern trade and commerce, but he always avoided to say something against the British colonial system. And that is why, so far as I know, Raja Sahab never emphasized on Swadeshi or national capitalism, because national capitalism could have become hostile to colonial capitalism. And so he never talked about such type of ideas which might have created hostility in the minds of British ruler against India. So in brief, we can say that Raja Rammohan Rai became a synthesis of best of the East and the West. He was neither Eastern nor Western, he was modern. And that is why his only view was India's progress. Let noble thoughts come from anywhere. And so he was not a narrow-minded thinker of India. That is why Guru Rabindranath Tagore truly says about Raja Rammohan Rai that he was perhaps the only one person of his time to realize the concern of India, the problems of India, although he could not achieve what could have been expected from Raja Rammohan Rai, but it was not his limitation. It never was also, because Raja Rammohan Rai started working in such a time that was not conducive for radical reforms. So it could only become a gradual reform. Revolution was not possible because he was a beginner. And that is why a famous historian truly commented on Raja Rammohan Rai. What he wrote? He wrote, Raja Ram Mohan Rai was greater for what he was rather than for what he achieved. This could be perhaps a better evaluation of the landmark contribution of Raja Rammohan Rai. He was greater for what he was rather than for what he achieved. I mean to say, whatever he achieved, it was less, or it seems to be less, because time was not fertile for any radical achievement. And what he was beyond of his time. He was ahead of his time. So his thought ignited, kindled the spirit of Indian people. And the same spirit burnt in course of time, which eventually culminated in the independence of India. So I think this is all about Raja Rammohan Rai. And please comment on this lecture so that we could do something more for your benefits. And in the next lecture, I would like to explain about Swami Dayanand, Vivekanand, etc. Okay.